title of my short talk is going to be Leaves and Branches. And as Tamara mentioned, and the cards say, that this series of paintings has a lot to do with the journey of water that I've become aware of, because water is what brings life back to the landscape that's been burned. And little did I know when I was at the Pepperwood Preserve in 2016 as their artist in residence, wandering those hills and doing paintings of that landscape, that a few months later, 90% of it would be burned. And for instance, this painting over here on the left, well, that big branch curving off to the left, I was up there a few weeks ago, and that whole section of the tree had broken off. It had been damaged so much by the fire that it just collapsed onto the ground, and it was very sad. Well, thinking of the way water travels through the landscape, you know, it's a cycle, and it can start in the river, or the ocean, or the sky, and it comes from the ground through the roots up into the tree, and it flows through the trunk and out into the branches and into the leaves. And from the leaves, there's something called transpiration, where it actually is, the water is breathed out into the atmosphere and the sky again. So it's this wonderful, amazing, invisible cycle at times, but other times you see it in the waterfalls and in the rain. Why, as an artist, am I concerned with trees? And another question is, what is it that I see or am thinking about when painting them? Well, part of the answer is that at one point in my life, it was my job. The first slide here is a picture of the Industrial Light and Magic Special Visual Effects Company of Lucasfilm, where I worked from 1980 basically to 1990. Let's see, I've got a little pointer here. That's me. An interesting thing about the company is that the company logo is a magician in a gear with a light. And part of that aspect of the motion picture business is the magic of creating illusions on the screen through miniature sets, through trick photography, and through painting. So this is the first matte painting I did, a matte painting, M-A-T-T-E. The black area, the matte, is where the live action is going to go. So this is, the movie took place in a magical sort of Great Britain or whatever. And instead of going to England, they had me do the painting, and then you can see the live action. It's just this little window that is projected with a movie projector, frame by frame, behind the painting, essentially. A movie within the painting. And then that's composited and cut by the editors into the movie. This is me working on Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. And I'm working on an Ewok village. They did build a set in England, but there's only so much they could build. So this is all a painting on, there's George. Okay, just to get clear, I got to get the laser right here. So this, once again, is clear glass. It's basically a window, and behind it is a projection screen, so the movie will be projected in there. And this is the scene where C-3PO is being carried on a sedan chair into the Ewok village. The torches would have been double exposures added to the film later. Well, this is me with George Lucas discussing the placement of an Ewok treehouse, and you can see the storyboards that start from the art department, and in my hand are pieces of film, because we're always trying to match the color of the painting to the live action, because it's supposed to be one unified thing. Here's the detail we were discussing. It was fun to invent the catwalks. Sorry about this. This is the Ewok actor, Kevin Thompson, who I met later on. It was kind of fun to meet the actor who was in the painting. That was his costume. So this is Kevin in his suit on a cable, and the idea is that he's supposed to be swinging into the Ewok village. This was filmed up in Crescent City, but as you can see, there's no Ewok village there. But even George Lucas, with his budget, would have had a hard time paying to have an entire Ewok village constructed up there. Probably wouldn't have gotten permission. So the idea was to do a painting that would incorporate the action as he swings across the scene into the painting, and that's me working on the painting. Redwood trees and the Ewok village. And this is more or less the finished painting. The black area on the left would be where the live action is. And here's a close-up, a little bit out of focus, showing all of the invented redwood trees and the mist going into the background and all that. Another view of the painting. Well, part of the leaves and branches theme is that here I was day after day for about a year, painting trees and leaves and branches. The leaves that you see are pretty realistic. The idea is, of course, you're not looking at a painting, you're looking at a movie. It should be live action. Here's the live action with the painting, and it's only on the screen for maybe 4 or 5 seconds. So it is like a magician's trick, which is look over here at the little Ewok, and you get like a momentary glance at the painting, which hopefully fools you into thinking it's a real Ewok village. So that was kind of my work as a magician artist. Yeah, this is a bit of a gag shot, but I did have lots of trees to paint. These are 4x8 sheets of masonite, and there's my storyboards. That's the work I'm working on. And I just got a lot of painting of leaves and branches. I had special brushes. I realized that I had fan brushes and I had sponge brushes. I got some sponges and stuck them on sticks. Because one of the aspects of this kind of work is that you do not want to show that a human being made it. It should look like nature, not a human being's painting. Because then it would blow the movie. The movie is supposed to be you're out there on the location. So one aspect that the man artist has to deal with is working against the human inclination to systematize and simplify patterns in nature. So here is a child's painting of a tree. It's pretty basic. It's just the trunk and then basically patterns of dots. And even for me and other mat artists, the tendency is to start moving your hand in repetitive patterns. And very quickly, the eye will see that. So we had different methods of looking in mirrors, looking at them upside down, whatever, to try to work against the natural quality of an artist to make patterns. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. This is a painting by David Hockney, the English landscape painter done in Yorkshire. And he's got a very conscious approach to representing nature as patterns that are stylized, kind of based on the modernist concepts of Matisse or whatever. So he loves to emphasize these patterns in complex arrangements. You even see the light and shadow on the street, and he's emphasizing the almost the extremes of light and shadow. The sunlight is yellow and the shadow is purple. You may have heard that the Impressionists did purple shadows. This is a computer-generated tree it's completely done through math and programming. And this is a more recent thing, but it once again shows the tendency for math and the human technologies to create patterns that are repetitive, but they're trying to add equations. This is actually an equation for a computer-generated paper, a paper on the science of making trees digitally. And so I thought, wow, check that out. It's like, it's more complicated than E equals MC squared. And that's what was going through my brain every day. So, and we, by the way, we had a 10-hour union day. You got there at 8 o'clock, you see dailies, and you work till 7 at night. And I know that some of the people thought, oh, what a prima donna. They get to sit up there and do paintings all day. Little did they know that by about 5 o'clock, you couldn't focus your eyes. So this is one of those finished paintings. To me, it doesn't look realistic, but in the movie, it worked fine. It was on the screen for about 1 second with a speeder bike blurring through it. This is the set for the famous shot of the chicken walker getting banged by the 2 logs from either side. Ed, were you out on this?
I certainly was.
Ed Hirsch there was part of this fun operation. It's a huge canvas, and that's me on the ladder, probably with Paul Houston, the longest living visual effects guy at Island. I'm just laying down stripes of trees. So that it's the line, and instead of dots, I'm using a brush to create the patterns of the clusters of the redwood. My palette is a film can. We have plenty of those. That was kind of cool. This is one of those shots that was used for a tilt down from the Death Star when Darth Vader is landing on the platform. Painted the redwood trees. The whole thing's a painting except the little walker in there. Even the lights were painted with an airbrush, which was kind of interesting for me to experience. This was for the Ewoks television show. Didn't you all see that? The Ewok Adventure. But
Emmy Award winning.
Emmy Award winning. At this point, I'd been painting for about 3 or 4 years, and I could do these pretty quickly, and I just felt like I started to understand how to create these illusions. So what was fun about this for me was painting the high contrast of the redwood trees. And what I wanted to show you here is the brushwork. Because as you zoom in on this painting, I don't know what point it doesn't look real, but when you zoom way in, it really is just touches of paint, little dots and dashes of paint. But there's very little repetition of shape. And that's what we learned in imitating nature. It's like an infinitude of shape and pattern. It's like theme and variation. It's all dots and dashes and lines, but every dot and dash and line is different from every other one, it seems. And so, someone once asked me, well, what style is matte painting? Is it photorealism? And it's not really photorealism, because you can zoom in on a photo and you keep on seeing more and more things, and you would see twigs and sticks and leaves and ferns, but the matte painting at a certain distance breaks up into just paint strokes. And you can compare this, so I called it calculated impressionism. You're calculating what is going to appear realistic on film, on a projected screen, and in a movie, but it's basically impressionism at a certain point. So, guess who did this painting? Claude Monet. And that's his house. Well, there you go. You've been there? Cool. So Monet was dealing with similar perceptions of nature in a way for the first time in art history, painting from life, and these patterns that he would have seen, these just infinitely intricate patterns, but also repetitive patterns. And if you zoom in, we zoom back out, he's also got the patches of light and shadow on the ground. He, of course, was not worried about making it look photographically real as nature in a movie. So he was emphasizing, the aspect of this artistic perception and expression. That's his dad, actually. I love that painting. But they're in the patches of sunlight and shadow on the garden walk. A lot of leaf pattern here in this painting. When you look at it, wow, it's like 30% of the square area of this painting. Very famous painting of his. And when you zoom in, wow. When I look at that, I think, I see patterns, but I don't see the same shape really twice or the same pattern. It's really hard for me to see that. So I think Claude Monet was aware of this aspect of nature in trees and branches, the linear and the dots. There's a Monet show of the water lily paintings at the Dion now. They're just unbelievable. So this is a detail of my painting that's right over there. It's the branches right in the middle of the painting. And up close, you can see that it's every bit as brushy or painterly as Monet, probably, maybe more so. But it's at a certain scale. And I think I've found a certain scale to work in. These paintings are basically the size of matte paintings, but they're not on glass. I was doing paintings this size before I worked at Ireland, too. I always liked this size. I like that size that you it's big enough to kind of draw you in. I'm trying to wrap this up. I talked about that painting and how that branch broke off. This branch here, it was severed about there, it just broke off, and then now it's on the ground, all just dried up. It's really, really kind of sad. In fact, the other interesting thing up at Pepperwood, they put a fire camera here that can see the whole county and warn people of breaking wildfires. Another close-up, and you can see I'm consciously varying the strokes, and these smudges and drags and blips, whatever they are, they represent clumps of leaves or leaves. But by varying it, to me, it captures nature more as I feel it. There's another Monet. Of course, he was more into the emphasis of the color, the intense blues and pinks that one sees from nature. Another close-up of my painting over there. Yeah, lots of dots. It almost looks like a kid's painting. There's a particular quality that you can get when you're dragging oil paint around over itself. This is pretty much, well, it's a combination of wet into wet and wet into dry. That to me, it's almost like touching nature. The Impressionists love to talk about their strokes as touches or touches. This one doesn't actually have much detail. A photorealist would probably go in and do individual spots of water, but I'm more interested in the overall lighting and flow, and as you get in closer, I think my kind of painting, I might refer to it as expressive realism, because in each stroke, I'm trying to express a feeling I have of awareness of nature, and it is a way of kind of touching or feeling the nature, the foliage, the leaves, the branches, but also feeling the sense of how the light is softly interacting with that.